So I want to invite you to imagine me sitting on a toilet. Anyway, I was pooping, okay? And the first part of this poop, which I would start off this metaphor by comparing it to just everyday life stuff. The basic necessities or needs of a human being, right? It just needs to happen. It comes out. There's usually just not much to it. You just have to do it, etc. That's the first part and first half. And that has its importance, obviously, but it's not really what I'm trying to look at in this situation. The second half, however, when I am sitting there and it feels like there's leftovers. It feels like it's not all out yet, right? Almost as if some part of it has been like left behind or got lost on the way down to the exit. And it's this part, getting that part out, that felt very familiar to me. And I realized that it was a beautiful metaphor, a beautiful metaphor for what I've been practicing, which is going with the flow, which is not forcing, but also not doing nothing. So if you were to imagine yourself in that type of situation where maybe it is that second half of poop that isn't coming out, maybe it's just the poop in general because it's so big, whatever. There's three ways to go about it, but usually people unconsciously do two things. One, they try and force, right? They try and push as hard as they can to like make sure this thing comes out, or the last bit of it comes out, because they want that relief, right? They want that feeling of peace that comes afterwards. But the problem with the forcing is, number one, usually if you remember those situations, it doesn't actually help that much. Or number two, it takes really long and you're really exhausted and really sort of like beat up afterwards in many different ways. And you can compare that to life, where it's like, if, for example, you are trying to force something that you're not ready for yet, or that isn't really for you, it's not aligned or true to who you are, and what comes of that. So, for example, you know, one common one I've heard among clients and friends is taking a job, going into an interview, taking a job that isn't for them, that they can feel is not aligned with them. And the problem with that is they end up getting into this job, which is like forward movement in a way, but then they're like riddled with anxiety and they hate the job and they're depressed and so on and so forth, because they pushed against and created resistance against the natural flow, which for them at that time was like, I don't actually want this, or this specific job or whatever. And obviously, like, make it relevant to your own life in whatever way you push through with something that was not true to you. So even if, for example, you get like the money or you are now stable, it comes with a very heavy cost. In the same way, you've got the poop out, but you're sitting there sweating, exhausted, not having a great time, maybe with a bit of like damage down there. You know what I mean? Now, there's also the other way of doing it, which is to do nothing, which happens very often. Like, you kind of give up. You sort of say, screw it, I'll come back to this later. So you step up, you wipe, you don't finish your poop, or you don't get that second bit out. And in the same way, people very often give up on life. They give up on like trying. They say, no, it's too hard, or, you know, this is way too much effort, so screw it. I'm just not going to do anything, and I'm going to, you know, sit and, in my case, it was play video games and just, you know, escape or avoid life. Now, the problem with that, obviously, is there's no forward progression. There's no forward movement. Your life becomes the culmination of avoidance, which in its own way feels really terrible. and obviously you don't achieve, you don't have like nice experiences, etc., etc. Comparing that to the poop story, you get up, you hop off the toilet, you go do your own thing, you're like, screw it, I'll come back to it later. And then you end up having like a stomach ache or stomach pains, or, you know, it comes out worse later, or constipation, worst case scenario. Now there is a beautiful, relieving, aligned middle way. And you might have noticed yourself doing this in a poop situation without even realizing. And this is what we call some of those like magical poops, where it just comes out perfectly, right? And there's no leftovers, no frustration, it's just, you know what I'm talking about. It's like those poops, right? And what I noticed is those always seem to happen, and it happened with me very recently, hence the inspiration for this video, where I have balance between those two options, where I am not forcing, but I'm giving it like just a little bit of pressure, almost as like a, hey, if you're ready, I'm ready. Right? I am waiting for your flow. I'm waiting for you to be in place, and when it is, it's going to catch the little bit of pressure I'm like putting there ready to offer you. And then naturally, maybe after a little bit of like, you know, adjusting and sitting up a bit straighter, it'll fall into place and then just go, because it's already ready and I'm not pushing and forcing and contracting so much. And it's effortless in a sense. Just like in life, where you're not forcing into things that aren't right or true for you, but you're not completely cut off or avoiding or closed. You are ready, you are open, and when you feel something shift into place, when you see an opportunity that is aligned, when you feel something click, when you can sense and really energetically feel the alignment and the enjoyment in whatever it is that comes your way or whatever it is you do. The fact you're ready, the fact that you're willing, and the fact that you have the energy to like then step into that is the same thing. It creates that effortlessness. But really what that is flow. It is allowing and trusting in life, and allowing life and the cycles of life to kind of guide and be your North Star, to give you the sort of okay or the heads up or the go ahead to move forward in a direction that feels better for you. Now, one thing I will say, and I noticed this within the poop as well, is in the beginning, it's very much a practice that can sort of take effort, take energy to be aware of. For example, in this poop that I just had, I noticed to find that sweet spot, I had to be very aware. I had to feel into, am I pushing too hard? And am I sort of relaxing and allowing enough for it to fall into place naturally? And that in itself takes some awareness, takes some self-restraint, takes some letting go of resistance, you know? So first of all, resistance in the body, you have to allow yourself to relax and allow. And then mentally, it's really hard to, when you feel it starting to fall into place, to ignore that first like egoic almost urgency, like, okay, push, you know, and push as hard as you can kind of thing, to resist that. All of those things are different practices within this sort of journey of life and spirituality, whatever you want to call it. And that can take a little bit of practice and effort in the beginning. But the beauty of it is, after some time, it becomes natural. It becomes your new norm. It becomes intuitive almost. especially when you have awareness around it. And it's the same within life. You have to be able to recognize where resistances are in your body and your mind, aka the ego and stored physical traumas or wounds, and then learning how to release those traumas in your body and ignore or argue against or release, let go of the egoic thoughts that try and stop you or push you in a direction that's not meant for you, so on and so forth. And it's just as relieving and peaceful and beautiful that experience of having one of those great poops are, so is it when you sort of allow the flow of life to carry you, to take you, but being ready for it. And having that balance between pushing and forcing and doing nothing is fundamental. And I'll give you a perfect example of that type of idea, that allowing presence. All these videos that I'm doing right now, I found that it is my unique way, my personal way of being in alignment, being in presence in a way that's effortless. Because what I'm doing is making videos based on what I'm feeling right now. And I love it. I love it. It fills me up. I have fun. It brings me fulfillment, right? So it is truly aligned with me. It feels good. And it just so happens to be able to do that, I need to then practice being present, which is, the kind of key to spiritual life and journey and whatever. It's to be present, to be in the now. That's where you feel wholeness, fulfillment, so on and so forth. But to be able to do that, I had to first in my journey sort of release resistances in the body and the mind, and then also practice like bringing my focus to presentness. But now the actual continued practice of it is effortless because I enjoy it. The practice fuels the enjoyment of the video making. So therefore the practice is no longer a chore. It's like, yeah, of course I would do that because that allows me to do what I love to do. So in that same way, I'm not forcing, but I'm also not doing nothing. I've found that sort of beautiful middle way of pooping in my life. And I invite you to do the same.